Hey guys, how's it going? This is Data Strain, and I'm going to talk to you about the Elektron Digitakt and whether or not it's worth it. Whether you use Maschine or the Push or any kind of software, if you're looking to go into the hardware environment of music, this is definitely a cool step to take. So I'll be back with you in a second, and then we'll jump right on into why I love this thing and why I would recommend it to pretty much anybody. Alright, so here it is in all of its glory, the Elektron Digitakt. That's right. So just a little backstory. In order for me to afford this, I kind of had to get rid of the Push 2. So that's gone. In reality, once I got the Maschine, I kind of realized I liked it more. And at the end of the day, the Push was kind of just an $800 MIDI controller. And that was about it. So I kind of walked away from that. And I couldn't be happier, honestly, because now I have something hardware to work with. I've never really been much of a hardware guy. I used to have a Korg micro Korg a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. That was like my first synth. I didn't really know a whole lot about it and how to use it. I had it for a little while, but I couldn't even play, music on my own for the most part. So I ended up chucking that, and then I got into like the software world of things, and I started working in like Ableton and all that. And as I've come along in my journey, I've realized that I kind of wanted to separate more and more from the hardware, or not from the hardware, from the computer, and get more into hardware. And I was debating what my first piece should be. I was going to get an OP1 at first, but something just kind of told me to hold back on that. And I'm really glad I did, because then I found, this guy right here. First thing that I want to really talk about is whether or not, no, not really that, like, who is this right for? Who is this really marketed to? Because I feel like there's a lot of, not misinformation, but people kind of thinking that it's something that it's not. And then if you go on like the Electronauts forums or like Reddit, you see a lot of people complaining about features that this should have, but it was never really meant to have to begin with. So I'm going to tell you about the basic features of it that I think are important, that can help decide whether or not this is good for you or not. First things first, for hip hop and anything that really requires sampling, when you're sampling into this, it samples in mono. And the reason being is because it's trying to save file space. This is technically a drum machine. So it's mostly meant for like one shots, and most drum samples are going to be in mono anyways. So that's really what their focus was. They added sampling in as a really cool kind of extra feature, but if sampling in stereo is your thing, this isn't going to be the machine for you. There's workarounds that you can do, such as recording in the left and then the right separately, matching them up and then panning them left and right. But I imagine some of you wouldn't really want to go through that kind of work and that kind of effort to do that. So if stereo sampling is very important to you, this is not the machine for you. If you like long sample times, this is also not going to really be your machine. It can only really sample up to 30 seconds per audio track, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, please feel free to correct me down below. But I believe it's only 30 seconds per track. So if you like sampling up, let's say, an entire song and getting all your chops from one long ass sample, it's not really going to happen on here. So that's something to also take into account. It only has 8 audio tracks in general, so if you're used to stacking and stacking and stacking tracks, this isn't going to be for you either. Me personally, I never really use more than 8 for anything. Even when I'm using Maschine, I maybe use 4 or 5 groups, and the rest just have effects attached to them or something, or like sends, So that was never really a limitation for me. If you're looking for a DAW in a box, this is not the place to go. That is more MPC Live territory. One of the reasons I didn't go for the MPC Live is because I already have Maschine, and it kind of felt like I was buying like another machine that could just work with or without the computer. It almost seemed, it just would have been overkill, I just didn't feel like that was good for me. This machine, though, is very inspiring for a couple reasons, and even though it has specific limitations, it kind of outweighs that. One more limitation I want to talk about is that there's only the RAM on here can only handle 64 megabytes of sound and samples in one project. So if you're in a project and you're using more than that, you're going to start getting some kind of polyphony cuts and voice stealing and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. You can always resample, so that's important as well. But I just figured I might as well mention it because I don't think many people really understand that, that aspect of it, is that it only has so many voices. Like I said, it's a drum machine, it's a drum computer. It's not supposed to do like, like Machine 128 tracks of stuff stacked on top of each other. But where I find this inspiring is that there's no song mode, nothing like that. You pretty much have to live perform everything if you want it to go from, like point A to point B. You can pattern chain a little bit, but it's really a performance oriented kind of, machine. Like you can build entire beats in this and then you go and play them out live with the same box, kind of thing. And that to me is very inspiring because too many times I get caught just kind of, like messing with arrangements and stuff. And it's like not really fun, especially because I'm not using my controller anymore. I'm kind of just using the mouse and everything, or, copy and paste and keyboard shortcuts. It's not fun for me anymore compared to with this. I kind of, if I want a full export of a song, I kind of either have to like record it out in parts or I have to perform the whole thing from beginning to end. But I do find that very inspiring and it keeps me more active. It makes me feel like I'm really working with the music instead of just kind of, putting it together. One of the things I love about this is just the general aesthetic of it. It's very small. As you can see, it's almost the same size as the Harbinger L502 that I've got here. And it's just barely bigger than the pad set on my Maschine MK3. It's just barely bigger than that. So it's very, very compact. And personally, I think this coupled with like an OP1 would definitely be pretty much everything you would need, aside from maybe a separate like 8-track recorder or something, to make have an excellent portable setup. The only thing you really need is DC power. I've seen a couple people get battery packs for these, but the success stories are kind of hit and miss. But I mean, you can find an outlet almost anywhere these days. So this thing with portability is fantastic. I also love the fact that this is like, let's say if I want to go from my studio down to like my room or like my living room, my kitchen, my bed, I'm only bringing this one box and finding somewhere to plug it in, so it's even more portable than the machine in that aspect. I don't need to bring my laptop or anything. It's just right then and there. When it comes to beat building and stuff, it seems limited from like the things that I told you, such as like the sample limit and everything. That's only 8 voices, but where it really shines is the Elektron sequencer and how they have it done. So we got this like kick track right here. I think I might have recorded something in here already. Yeah, so we're just gonna go ahead and get rid of these. Let's see if I have any other tracks recorded. I think I might. Yeah, so we'll get rid of that. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on your first track here. That's how you record. So you select an audio track, hit the record button. Now you're in the grid sequencer. So we're going to do a 4 on the floor. And this is where it really shines. So you can add in other notes. So I'm going to add some right there, add some right there. And what we're going to do is use what's called conditional triggering. So we're going to go to the trigger page right here. Hit the 2 notes that you want to select, and I'm going to make these come in twice every 2 repetitions, and then these are going to come in twice every 4 repetitions. You can also do it based on percentages, which gives it more of a random and humanized feel, kind of slips in those happy accidents and stuff, which is really cool. So I'm going to give a listen to that. So it took that 1-bar loop and made it seem like a 2-bar loop, and you can kind of keep doing that with stuff. And also with the sourcing, you can take, let's say these 2 triggers right here, you can take that, press them down, and then swap the sample out. So I'm going to swap that sample out for a snare. So that's like a good way to kind of save space on your tracks, because you're limited by 8 audio tracks, but if you can fit what would essentially be on 2 tracks on one, you might as well, especially if it's kick and snare. And then you can save all your other slots for more basses, more one-shots and everything, which is very, very cool. For the people out there who aren't used to step sequencing, I know I'm not. I've never really been a step sequencing guy. That's not my forte. I like, finger drumming. I like playing it and stuff. I actually find this very enjoyable because like the unit itself has like a keyboard clickiness to it. It looks like, to me, it reminds me of like an old school PC from like the 90s meets like a Game Boy. You know what I mean? It's got that OLED 8-bit screen and stuff, and then even just, you know what I mean? It sounds like I'm typing, but it feels very nice. It's very aesthetically pleasing to use this machine. For the people out there who like the finger drum, that is a possibility. You can do that. There is a live recording mode. So you can do stuff like that. So with that kind of thing, so we'll just do like a little tap tempo. We'll go to the metronome. And I actually want to have, I'm going to do that. Turn that on, turn a count in on, do 2 bars. And then in order to do live, like a live recording, you just hold down the record button and then press play. Have it count in. All right, I kind of fudged up there, but you get the point. You can see that, it offers both. It does not have velocity sensitivity though. So if that's something important to you, maybe look the other way. You can use an external MIDI controller, such as, like Maschine, or if you have like a launch pad or something, you can get one of those, I think it's Kenton USB boxes. So you can use like a USB type MIDI controller with these type of machines. It'll power it. Also, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really know a ton about this kind of stuff, but at least from what I've been reading, that's a possibility. It also works with like, the Arturia beat step, key step, stuff like that. Anything that really has a MIDI in and out, or it can be, can be adapted to, I think it's the DIN 5-pin MIDI, will help. It can help power your machines and stuff. So you can use external as long because it supports MIDI velocity. It just doesn't record in on its own because of the type of sequencing like kind of pads that it has. So it's not impossible. So if it's important to you, you could look other ways, but there's also ways to work around it and kind of end up on a good note and get what you want. What else do I find really cool about this? The effects are fantastic. Tuning is great. It's very fine. You know what I mean? You have a lot of control over stuff here. Some things that you will find that are missing though is there's no real EQ, and there's no compressor either. But that's also because for the most part it's a drum sampler, like I said. So you're gonna have like a high or low pass filter of your choice, and you can set envelopes and everything. But you're not gonna get like a 3, 5, 8 band EQ or anything like that. And there's no final compressor to throw on, like let's say your master, or on individual tracks. It's something that can be stemmed out and kind of all that done in post-processing. Or if you're playing live, you're probably running through some kind of mixer which will have things like that you can run into. So if you're very effects based, this doesn't have the most effects on it, but the effects do sound pretty good in my opinion. Really quick, I'm gonna load up a project that I did recently, just to kind of give you an idea. No, I'm not going to save that. Just to kind of give you an idea of what this can do. This is like a lo-fi beat, and it's technically, I think it's technically like 4 bars, but the way that I set it up, it kind of switches a little bit. It's very, very simple. I did it in about half an hour yesterday, but in that time, I got some pretty cool results. So I mean, like, this thing's definitely capable, and and once you route everything out into your DAW, that gives you even more freedom. This is basically just like a really good sketchbook or a really good drum machine. It's so fun, and like the way that you work on it is just so different. Like you have to think in almost like kind of like sub levels and stuff. Like, how am I gonna get this 4-bar loop to sound like like a 64-bar loop or whatever, and it's all possible. And there's many more possibilities that I'm not even covering on here yet because I haven't finished the manual and I haven't tried anything out. But so far from what I've used, I love this. I really do. I think it'd be a great addition to pretty much any studio. If you're looking to get into the hardware game and you are unsure of like this or like an MPC or something of the like, I would say just try this out first. Definitely give it a try, see how you feel about it. For some people, the Elektron workflow doesn't really work out, but in a price range like this, just to kind of get a taste of it and see what it's like and see if you enjoy it is definitely worth it to me. And if not, you could always return it and then take your money and buy like an MPC Live or an MPC 1000, and really get into the hardware realm of things. Sorry if I rambled or anything like that during this video. I had a long day at work, and then, I'm trying to get this video out there. And to be quite honest, I'm just very excited to have this in my arsenal. As I go along with it, I'm going to start doing more and more beats and, more demonstrations with this, more tips and tricks. But I just really wanted to show not only just kind of how cool it is, but give my personal opinion on it, whether or not I think it's worth it and who would benefit for it or from it. I can't say that personally, I wouldn't say that if you were like an Ableton and a push user, I wouldn't trade in your push for this. It's not going to do that much for you in the side of Ableton if that's your workflow. But if you just want like a hardware companion even to the push, this is excellent. If you want a hardware companion to go with your machine, this is excellent. Routing the MIDI in and out is super fun. You can sequence 8 different, MIDI instruments from here, and I'm pretty sure you can also use that on like MIDI VSTs. So if you wanted to use like Monarch and stuff in here and basically sequence all of your sounds on here, sequence on here all the sounds from machine, I'm more than positive there's a way to do it. And if I figure it out, I'll be sure to do a video. So all in all, I wouldn't trade it in for all of your stuff, definitely keep up with, if you already have machine, stick with it. If you already have push, stick with it, but definitely consider this as an add-on. Or, if you did want to just get away from, computer music altogether for the most part, except for tracking out, this coupled with like an OP1, I think would do wonders for you, or even an SP404 because there's stereo sampling and amazing sampling times. But yeah, so rant and ramble done. I hope I didn't just bore you to death, and I hope I wasn't too all over the place. But this is the Elektron Digitakt. I love it. I hope to use it in more videos coming in the future. Let me know what you think. Do you own it? Have you used it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, feel free to comment below and let me know. I just want to make you guys happy, and anything that I can do to help you on your journey and, with whatever investments you want to make or whatever kind of music you want to make, I'm here for you, So thank you so much for taking your time and watching my video, and I hope to catch you next time. So see ya.